All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Leo. Good morning, Julia. Good morning, Martin. And good morning, Nico. How are you?
I'm all well. Good morning, Pierre, to you as well, and good morning to all the others joining our room as well. Looks nice seeing familiar faces down there. Pierre, how are you?
Yes, absolutely. You feel a little bit like Big Brother up here in the moderation channel, looking down on our crowd. But nonetheless, I'm doing fantastic, Nico. I'm in Sweden actually. I'm experiencing autumn for the first time in I think 10 years. Was the last time actually saw and experienced this season, autumn. Because as you know, in Malta we just have kind of hot and less hot. And for whatever reason, I rarely find myself traveling in October and November. So quite interesting, quite fun to be here and check out the changing of the seasons, let's say. But how's everything with you, Nico?
All good, all good. One question. There are rumors going around that you're having some appointments with the Spellinspektionen already set up, just to get some rules out there in the favor of the operators, starting with the advertising ban. Right? It has been you, Pierre, and just you being in Sweden again, and now they are kind of lifting it. That's great work, and thanks from the overall industry, Pierre. Nice work.
Oh my God, Nico, I don't know where that came from, but no, I have not spoken anything to the gambling to the spelling function in Sweden to make that clear. But yes, let's say I'm here in spirit and supporting the movements within the spelling function to let go of the temporary restrictions here in Sweden. It's good to see that the regulator is actually doing something positive here for once. But I guess we're gonna lift that up in a little bit more again, because it's quite interesting topic in its own right. The fact that since the pandemic, the Swedish regulator took the decision to heavily restrict the players from depositing money into the online gaming world, and the expectations from the operators was kind of like this is going to become something permanent, but seemingly out of the blue, the regulator now reversed that decision and is actually removing the temporary deposit limits. But they are also talking about a potential re-regulation, so to say, or potential new measures that will come here now from the new habits that have formed from the consumers since the pandemic. But yeah, that's a topic in its own right, Nico. So I'd like to welcome the rest of the panel here as well this morning. Rory, it's good to see you here as well. How are you doing?
Good morning, Pierre. Good morning, everyone. I'm actually sitting at my folks' place in France, so it's a nice change of scenery, and the weather's not that great. It was very sunny yesterday, but today is very overcast. But yeah, the wonders about remote working, the fact that you can be anywhere in the world and still connect. So yeah, welcome and hi to everyone.
Good to hear, Rory, that you're working hard, of course. Here at iGaming NEXT, lots of stuff coming up, so no time to rest, in other words. And Bogdan, super nice to see you back here again as well. It's been like a couple of months here since you saw you last time. What has been going on? How are you doing? How's
Hello, Pierre. Hello, everyone. Well, not a couple of months, a couple of weeks. And indeed, I've been pretty busy. Got quite a lot of projects going on. So been involved in this actively and able to actually join this first day tradition, I would say, the breakfast tradition, sort of. So I'm happy that that I managed to straighten the things up and at least listen what's going on and maybe contribute a little bit in the topics where my knowledge could serve to the others. So that's it from my side. Apart from the bad weather outside.
Yeah, it's that time of the year. Well, it's nice to have you back, Bogdan, and hear that sweet voice of you back here in the breakfast chats. We have been missing you for sure. And yeah, I mean, it's the fifth week or something like that. We're doing this in a row. We had just annoyingly for like the OCD people out there, we had 1 week that we missed from this clubhouse chat, which was on the 21st of October during iGaming Next here. We didn't have the opportunity to start the room, but other than that, we've been going strong here. So you'll be happy to know that, Bogdan. And Katie, good morning to you as well. How are you doing? I suppose that the weather where you are is a bit better than where we are.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'm sitting in very hot sun on my terrace. I'm thinking about actually taking off my clothes because it's like I think I'm gonna get burned or like yeah. But I'm so tired. I get home late last night from Barcelona. I decided to take a vacation there with my kids and ex-husband over Halloween. It was really nice, but when you're traveling with kids, it's never a vacation. So yeah, let's see what's going. I have never heard about this with the Swedish thing, so I'm really interested to hear what's going.
Absolutely, Katie. How old are your kids now, by the way?
5 and 4, so they're very, very demanding but cute.
They're like mine, very active and very mischievous. I bet.
Yes. They're 2 girls, so they have like their whole, will. I can't decide clothes. I can't decide where we're going, what we're eating. It's just, 2 teenagers.
Yeah, my stepmom was talking to some French lady yesterday, and she introduced my children as the petit maniacs, the small maniacs, which is
Yeah,
probably very apt, to be honest.
it probably goes for all kids that age, I think.
Amazing. Warriors kid came into our team meeting the other day and gave some hilarious, funny jokes to us in the team. That kind of cheered up the entire team. So yeah, they are a little bit. They are small jokesters, Warriors kids, just like his father.
Like father, like son. Be careful because they might want to, if they're listening on this, they might want to join in and do a joke. I'll see if they can sign off with a joke at the end.
Yes. Please prepare them already now, Rory, and that would be great. Maybe we'll need to change the name of the room to iGaming Next funny joke chat instead. But anyway, and I'm just going to say good morning to Karolina as well. I know Karolina is a little bit under the weather today, and so she is kind of keeping a blessing and keeping an eye on us so that we don't say anything stupid today here in the breakfast chat. But she asked to kindly not chime in today herself today, of course, because of being a bit under the weather. But good morning, Karolina, as well. And Jan, great to have you back here as well. How is everything over at Endorfina? What's been going on lately? I know that you guys have been visiting all the conferences that you possibly can. What has been the result of this so far? And good morning.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm a little bit in the same mood like Bogdan today. I think it's Central European weather hits us all. So I'm here a little bit more to enjoy the company of you all, just chat more in a more relaxed way, and maybe just maybe add something there. On the expo sites and conferences, I must say it was most that I can feel it was a morale boost. So people coming back from the expos, they bring always something, some good energy to the office. So when the rest of the team sees that things are happening out there, that is not only through Skype, emails, Slack, or calls, then they get more motivated, and you can feel it in the office. So I think that was the except some deals, that was one of the best values that we got out of these trips.
Awesome. And just for my very own selfish reasons here, I'd like to just ask the panelists here today. I'm gonna personally travel to. Well, obviously, I'm gonna be at Sigma, seeing that I'm domiciled in Malta. But then I'll be traveling to SBC North America, and after that, I'm gonna go straight from New York to Barcelona. So wanted to open up. So who here is? We can do a little like if you're going to the conference, please flash your mic, basically. So who is going to Sigma? Flash your mic if you're Sigma. Okay, it's me, Rory, Bogdan, and Jan. Basically, okay, very good. And is anyone going to WGS?
Maybe.
Oh, maybe. Okay. There was a half flash. Okay, so all right, I'm alone on that one. I have high hopes with you now, Katie. Please, I don't want to sit in the bar alone. Okay.
Get me a ticket and I'll come.
Well, I wish I could, but all right. And last but not least, SPC North America. Are you going? Flash your mic. Ah, me and Rory only. Okay, that's
Just you and I in the
interesting.
bar.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm okay with that, to be honest. It's as long as there's no deck of cards and we play 4 kings, I'm fine. That's a danger. Okay, so there will be okay, not so much traveling amongst the panel here in the next coming month, but nonetheless, I will make sure to keep you all updated of what's happening in these conferences and so on. I think personally it's going to be really interesting to see how all these conferences is going to take place. I mean, Sigma now, obviously, next up is taking place on I believe it's the 16th to 19th of November, and they are combining 4 conferences into one, and expecting 20,000 people, according to Aman. Now, let's see how that is going to turn out. I think in 2019, the last Sigma, they had around 9,000 registrations at Sigma. So it will be really interesting to see, because Malta still only allows for vaccinated travelers to enter the country. And so obviously Eastern Europe, outside of Europe, low vaccination rates, not possible as far as I know to get exemptions as traveling in. So it will be interesting to see. At the same time, Sigma is obviously very hyped, and it is recognized as the biggest show of the year this year in the lack of ice and so on. So it will be interesting to see if the iGaming industry gathers around that event. I will definitely be there, Rory there, and others as well. So that's going to be interesting. Okay, let's move on a little bit to the discussion points of today. We decided to change the concept slightly today and just try something just slightly different. Nico obviously is our absolute trooper, putting together the news stories of the week for us every single week. But we were thinking, instead of Nico just reading the reports from top to bottom, that instead we'll discuss we'll zoom in on some of the discussion points today and some of the more interesting news for some comments. So basically, Nico will read the news one by one, and whenever there's an interesting story, we'll have a small little discussion around it, and then we move on to the next story. And it's interesting this week because there's a lot of interesting movement. There isn't really a topic to zoom in for a full hour, but there are a lot of interesting topics to chime in on a little bit here and there. So what do you think, what do you think, Nico? Shall we give it a try?
Yeah, just give it a shot. Just give it a shot. So whoever feels like, okay, I can add some more insights or wants to zoom in into a comment, please feel free to just lighten your mic, flip the mic, and then we will just give you some space for your comments as well. This should be a little bit more interactive, like it usually is when I just read out the news, and it's like me speaking for 10 minutes or so. So just feel free to flash the mic, and then we will just take you on board as well. Pierre, is this a good approach?
I think this sounds absolutely excellent.
Okay.
I'll start. I think it's really interesting news with Scientific Games acquiring Authentic Gaming. I think that's an interesting topic. If anyone has any thoughts on that, this is the first time, isn't it, that they're getting into live casinos? Is that right? I think it is, isn't it? So I think it'd be really. Do you think? Does anyone think that's going to cause a threat or a more interesting proposition for anyone else? I'm opening
Yeah,
up the floor.
yeah, absolutely. Right. So, Nico, what do you say? Shall we start on that story? So, as a starting point here, Nico, what have you noted down on the Scientific Games and Authentic Gaming acquisition?
So first of all, it's an undisclosed deal. So we don't know the exact volume of the Scientific Game kind of buying Authentic Gaming. So as said, it's an undisclosed deal. But what we know for sure, it's the first time that Scientific Games will be able to provide live dealing or live dealer casino. So they are expanding their vertical of casino offerings with live casino as well. So whoever wants to give us some insights on this one, just feel free to actually comment on this one. As said, it's an undisclosed volume, so I don't have that much to actually speak about. But as said, just feel free to zoom in on that topic.
I think what would be interesting is, I don't know, John, not to put you on the spot here, the news came out this morning, but obviously seeing that you're running a game studio yourself of pretty significant size, I don't know if there's any initial thoughts here from your side on the Authentic Gaming and Scientific Games deal.
I can say specifically on this deal because really I had to check seriously on if we even share similar markets with Authentic Gaming because to be honest, as a brand, I don't see them pushing themselves as something different than just another live casino supplier. So maybe Scientific Games saw some different value, maybe technology, maybe the size, maybe scaling, and that may have been the reason. But from my experience, right now, the market is crazy in terms of acquisitions. I'm basically getting spammed by different companies from countries you would not expect that are trying to invest into B2B iGaming. So this also may be a move from Scientific Games that they are trying to acquire something, just like they can see it as well, I'm sure. And they may be worried that they need to acquire assets. Maybe they are sitting on a lot of cash. I didn't check their quarterly reports or their yearly stats. So maybe this is something to do with this. On the other hand, their local market is US. Everybody's talking about evolution, that they have a very strong position there, and maybe this is Scientific Games, throwing in the glove and saying like, look, guys, this is our home market. We're gonna do something here.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on its head there, John, to some extent. I think it's quite obvious that Scientific Games are making this move in order to establish themselves on the live front, specifically in the US. I mean, Evolution is currently operating with a monopoly in that market, and clearly it is kind of like the holy grail to figure out a profitable live product in the US market. It's clearly not easy. Like Playtech have been trying to figure it out for years, still not established in the US. But can Scientific Games do it now with the acquisition of Authentic Games? I mean, Scientific Games obviously very well established in the US. Outlook looking positive. They have now divested part of their the sports betting product that they had in order to kind of consolidate the company and making this push that they are now expanding with the live product. I think it's very super interesting, and I'm just waiting for the markets to open to see how the shareholders is going to react to this acquisition. But I think that Scientific Games is going to have a really good day today on the stock market, because this is signaling again that they are entering this very, very profitable business that Evolution is currently running. And I can't imagine the shareholders being anything else but excited about this move, to be honest. And secondly, you mentioned as well, Jan, like this B2B acquisition spree that is happening at the moment. Another interesting story on that note is Aspire Global's new strategy to become the world's leading iGaming B2B supplier, from basically like a 360-degree iGaming supplier. And so recently they divested the B2C part, the very lucrative B2C part, to Esport Technologies. That contract was signed, I believe, like the 1st of October. And Aspire Global just released their first quarterly report today, actually, now after divesting that part of their business. And they are growing as well in the B2B segment, and they are also now gearing up to make further acquisitions in the B2B space. So it's just a matter of time before we see Aspire Global also acquiring something on the B2B side. And they have specifically communicated as well that the US will be one of the main growth markets here as we go forward. So those would be my 2 cents. I don't know, Jan, if that makes sense to you as well.
Well, to me, like since I'm on the B2B side, to me it makes 100% sense. Because if you start to behave in a way that you have operations, you have platform, you have games, you have a live studio, like you cannot handle the full solution and operations unless there is some long-term merger strategy, maybe in the US that will happen eventually, that there will be like operators with full technology. But right now, I just can't see how you can handle it. Maybe it's my lack of imagination, but I think it's too much, and you have to make a decision. And from my point of view, they made the correct decision. But it's I'm talking only from my experience, because maybe they're tired of the B2C European regulated, over-regulated, and they feel that they can navigate as a supplier of solutions in a more, I would say, leaner way, that you can, use your talent more actively.
Exactly. I mean, what is clear, I think, is that the honeymoon that Evolution have been enjoying for the last couple of years could be, and I want to emphasize the word could, because the others have still not proven themselves, but it could be over. The Aristocrats acquisition or potential acquisition of Playtech could disrupt Evolution's status in the US. Obviously, Scientific Games acquisition of Authentic could disrupt the status in the US for Evolution. And finally, as well, Microgaming, which are now building their own studio called On Air Entertainment, which is launching later in the year under the guise of Andres Regnifo, who used to head up the live department at Evolution and then later on at NetEnt Live. He is now heading up a massive investment by Microgaming to enter the live space as well. So there are some contenders here emerging, but the live space is a slow-moving space. Obviously, there's a lot of infrastructure that is needed to be built in order to be competitive in that space, and that does not happen overnight. That is the difference from the RNG side, where a small operation like Big Time Gaming can pop up and create some really cool games, and we just basically a football team as taking care of that operation, and then basically become one of the biggest studios in the market with low resources and just a lot of good creativity. So it still remains to be seen. There's still a lot of they still need to prove themselves, but Evolution, I'm sure, is keeping a very close eye on what's happening here. Is there any other comments on this very topic, by the way?
So
interesting.
yeah,
I think we covered.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we covered this as well. So as the acquisition of Scientific Games, buying Authentic Gaming is an undisclosed deal. There's something else on Scientific, as they are about to sell their lottery business to Brookfield for 6.05 billion US dollars. So for sure, they have some money to at least spend on the Authentic Gaming acquisition as well. Just to zoom in a little bit on this specific topic. So Scientific Games, they are in deeper talks with the private equity company called Brookfield Business Partners to sell their lottery business for, as stated, 0.5 billion US dollars. And the deal includes an initial settlement of cash of 5.83 billion US dollars and an earn out of up to $225 million as well. So the Scientific lottery business, they run in approximately 130 government and non-government lottery entities all over, in over 50 countries all around the world. So as said, they are literally ducking out of the lottery business to actually, and this is what Pierre said, to enter the live casino vertical with the acquisition of Authentic Gaming. So anyone wants to zoom in Scientific Games selling their lottery business?
I do think in general that it seems that the Scientific Games wants to just basically focus their business better rather than doing everything. They are trying to focus it on the platform, and now obviously on the RNG side, and also on the live segment as well. They are kind of modeling themselves after Evolution in that sense, because a natural step for Evolution, if they want to do further M&A activity, would, a lot of investors have been speculating if Evolution will acquire a sportsbook, for example, but that seems very unlikely. Just because you're good at handling a live studio doesn't mean that translates into being good at running a sportsbook, so to say. But I think where the speculation is now is potentially if Evolution would acquire a platform like OpenBet, for example, of Scientific Games. Now, obviously, they won't be able to acquire OpenBet, but they would potentially acquire a platform which is similar. And in that case, Scientific Games and Evolution will be kind of almost identical in business model. Now with the changes that Scientific Games are doing, and from Scientific Games' point of view, why wouldn't they? Evolution is the biggest gambling company in the world, seemingly unstoppable, growing steadily. They have a great business model. So from Scientific Games' point of view, why wouldn't you want to emulate that? So those would be my 2 cents, I think.
Well, if I can add something here, because you've been touching the base when it comes to the sportsbook, and honestly speaking, I have a little bit different point of view, because if you look on the Evolution and their success, which is undoubtedly something to actually make a long story about, I see the perfect sense in not only acquiring the platform, but also launching a sportsbook and running the sportsbook. regardless if you don't have experience as Evolution in running the sportsbook operations. But if you go into acquire, let's say, a sportsbook provider, or you're going to acquire the sportsbook business, then you will have the people who can run for you the operations, and with the enormous group of the customers they have access to, and the reputation, that does not sound to me as an impossible adventure. I would say otherwise, especially looking into the United States, and especially looking into the entire fuss about the M&A. We're going to witness more acquisition, and the movement which we are seeing in the market in regards to spending money acquiring the companies, that only proves how dynamic our industry is, but also how United States opening the US market is opening some sort of a different mindset among the companies and the people who are decisive there. It's for me, it's no doubt that sooner or later, and I think it's going to be sooner, we're going to see that the United States also open the online casino market, and I really doubt that all the investments which are right now focusing on the US are only having in mind the sportsbook operations. Obviously not, and that is something what the giant companies are thinking of. I'm 100% sure they do. And if you are not going to have the entire portfolio of the products, you might be somehow seen as not the one you should be the first choice for the customers, and also for the operators who are looking for both the platform provider, but also the game provider and the sportsbook. So to me, to sum this up, I think it makes perfect sense, even for companies like Evolution Gaming, to actually start to offer this sportsbook product to the clients.
Yeah, I think if I were to comment on that, I'd say that potentially in the long run, Evolution might want to become this kind of Playtech 2.0 monster, being, with 8 tentacles and having a 360-degree B2B solution. But I would be quite hesitant to say that it's the right strategy at the moment to think in those terms, because a year ago, Evolution acquired NetEnt and Red Tiger, of course, and they still haven't been able to organically grow that department, that RNG segment. So essentially, they have been buying revenue until this moment, but they are still unproven as an organization how to organically grow a different sector than just the bread and butter, the live segment. And so I think what the investors are looking at now, for example, is where will the growth come from in Evolution, and as we go forward, because how much more can they grow on the live segment quarter per quarter? Like, how much more market is there to capture in order to grow as quickly as they have in the last couple of years? And the expectations and the hope is, of course, that Evolution will be able to make their magic, let's say, over the RNG segment. But they haven't been able to do that yet. And I think if they would acquire a sportsbook, I think it wouldn't be for the purpose to buy revenue, because the sportsbook would obviously have a lot lower margins than the company is currently enjoying on the EBITDA side. So in the last quarterly report, Evolution have something like a 70% EBITDA margin, which is like unheard of, more or less. There was like Big Time Gaming who had an even higher EBITDA margin, but there is pretty much no other iGaming company with that EBITDA margin. And so if they would acquire a sportsbook, their EBITDA margin would suffer. And so shareholders would not necessarily be very happy about that type of exposition without a larger strategy. So I think, again, perhaps you're right in the long term, and perhaps you're right in the short term as well. And I'm just talking out of my hat at the moment. But seemingly to me, it would be in the reverse order, that they would first acquire a platform and then establish it, organically be able to grow it, prove themselves in different verticals, and then attack additional verticals as well, like a sportsbook, for example. I don't know. Does that make sense to you, Bogdan? Or am I talking out of my...
Yes, Pierre, but you've been mentioning the platform, and if they are thinking and acquire the platform, could be, and I know many platforms who actually have this sportsbook under their umbrella. So this might be the one shot which actually will cover this all. So they will have the platform, they will have a sports, but they will also have other verticals in the platform, other products. And this what you said, that the last year big acquisition of Jansen and the Tiger. This is something what obviously changed the landscape a little bit, looking from the both B2B partners and operators themselves. But that clearly shows that even though they are experts in live casino, they are looking into other verticals. And it's exactly the same with the other companies and this acquisition which we are witnessing on a weekly basis almost. Shows that not necessarily specialists or the companies who are very sharp in one vertical are going to be sharp in another. So they are going shortened way by acquiring the companies who are experts in what they do. And I think this is something what we might witness in this particular case, but also in the other. So we'll see how that go. But to me, it makes quite a perfect sense to grow that way, for not only for Evolution but for other giants. Anyway, customers going to look, and the partners on the B2B scene, they're going to look for the company who offers everything under the same roof. Running the operations through the different back offices, it's a nightmare. And I remember doing this like 15 years ago or 20 years ago. It wasn't fun, and everyone is looking right now to have the unified system which will simplify the marketing efforts, campaigns, and the operations. And that makes, to me at least, the perfect sense. So we see how that go.
Bogdan, if you're right, I'll buy you a drink at the next conference. Shall we agree to that?
Yeah, sure, right.
Very good. I like that deal. I would think, and great, Bogdan, super good input in general. Nico, if you don't mind, I would like to ask Lisbeth in the chat as well. Lisbeth, obviously, from Aspire Global, who released a quarterly report this morning. Another solid quarter from Aspire Global, who have seemingly come from nowhere. Like, since the pandemic, Aspire Global have increased share price by like 600%, almost, like outpacing the likes of Evolution and others. And Aspire Global, this goes from strength to strength each quarter at the moment, doing everything right, and obviously divesting the B2C part now, looking to turn into a world-leading B2B supplier. And Lisbeth, so I'm just super curious to ask you in general, like, can you talk about the new strategy of Aspire Global? We've been talking a lot about B2Bs here. How do you fit into this mix, especially now with the news coming from Scientific Games and Aspire and Authentic Games, and particularly looking at the US as well? I know that that is kind of what Chashi Maimon, the CEO of Aspire, have mentioned, that is kind of where the future growth lies as well. So yeah, Lisbeth, if you don't mind, like, can you talk a little bit more about the progress within Aspire Global.
Yeah, sure. And how are you all? It's nice to be here. And this morning, Aspire Global released the Q3 report, and I invite you all to watch it back because it comes with a presentation online of our CEO and CFO, and that take 1 hour to go through everything. And there were a lot of questions asked as well. They were really, really interesting, especially what you're discussing now about live casino, about bingo, adding that to the portfolio, so to say, and the time frames and how it will look. So when we talk about the divestment of the B2C segment, that was it didn't come out of nowhere. It was a strategy to look into that. They announced like earlier this year they would be looking into divesting this part, and they found a great partner and moved forward. And I think this is what can push the company really forward and focus on being that B2B platform integrated with sports, B2Bet, of course, games, party play, and offering that wide range of services. And the company has actively been focusing on the US. There's a managing director in the US who's on the ground there, who is daily focused on everything that's happening and looking into new deals. And the other focus market for the future is Brazil. I wouldn't be surprised if they hire a managing director there too. And these are, of course, like big and very, very much growing markets. And the company is going from strength to strength. I think having a diversified company, what we're talking about, like how do other companies want to diversify, evolution, it's not easy. It takes a long time to master other parts of the diversification. But once you manage to get to a certain stage of good diversification, if there is something happening in one part of your business, regulatory-wise or whatever, you can soften it or you can catch that revenue downfall with another part of your business. And I think this is what Aspire is good at, because they have diversified and they have been going strong in there. And for example, when Netherlands came with the new rules, and you saw a lot of companies being hit quite hard, I think Aspire there managed to diversify and make other parts of the business strong to make up for that. So these are my 2 cents, and so like I said, I invite you all to watch the talk this morning because it's super interesting. They have very like in-depth knowledge than what I can say here in like 5 minutes.
Brilliant, Lisbeth. Super interesting. Like I said, Aspire have really accelerated. I mean, this year particularly, and since the pandemic, is really interesting. I mean, everything has been done right, it seems like. Congratulations, Lisbeth, to another great quarterly report. It will be interesting now to follow in the next Q reports when you don't have the B2C segment anymore, because now all eyes will be on the growth of B2B, of course. So
true,
very interesting.
but the company does do the managed services still. The contract is ongoing, so in that sense, the revenue of the managed services will all be done by Aspire, as we do for many partners.
Fair enough. Cool. Nico, let's jump back over to you. I'm sorry to sidetrack here a little bit. I thought it was really interesting to hear Lisbeth's 2 cents on Aspire Global and the report that came out this morning. What else do you have for us?
All good. That's what Clubhouse is for, just zooming into one topic. So another topic we have as a breaking news is New York is expected to name the online sports betting operators who will be giving a license by or within this week. And I'm pretty sure that Katie will have a take on this one as well. But first of all, let me just introduce us to the topic. So New York is expected as early as a week name at least 2 operators or 2 operating groups to begin offering online sports betting, according to a source of the New York Post. Once the officials give the green light, New York just the state of New York expects $10 billion in sports betting next year, with nearly $1 billion as expected profits, and these profits will be split between the state and the operators. Just remember, last week we just talked about the updated tax scheme of a tax rate of 64%, and now we just see the final decision. So who are these two groups of operators who are close to the finish line? So it's one group or a consortium covering Bellybet, BetMGM, DraftKings, and FanDuel, and the other group contains Caesars, Wynn Interactive, Empire Resorts, PointsBet, and Rush Street Interactive. So within this week, the race in legislation and regulation in New York will kind of come to an end, as two groups will be named within this week. So, Katie, what are your specifics on this topics? Is anything you want to add?
No, I don't think I have anything to add other than it's just very, very interesting, and I can't see what happens. I can't wait to see.
So for sure, the tax rate, or the tax scheme, which they will come up with, is just insane. Just remember, in Germany, each and every operator gets nuts on a tax scheme of 5.03%, and in New York, it's just 64%, which is just insane.
I think though, like, why New York can do this and have 64% is because sportsbook is so big in New York, especially the black market. You know, everyone in New York plays sports betting right now, even though it's black market. So I think the New York legislators know that they will earn so much money from this. That is no question about how high they can go tax-wise. But yeah, it's really crazy, and it's been a long race. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and this is a topic we covered last week within the podcast Pierre and me did. So either you head over George Washington Bridge to New Jersey, touching down in Fort Lee, which literally outperforms the Nevada sports betting revenue on a daily basis, or you head over to the northern state of Connecticut, where at least 8% of the overall sports betting revenue comes from New Yorkers. So we see a big appetite of people living in Manhattan or in New York to actually participate in this world of sports betting.
Absolutely, and just to put a little bit more into context, Nico, I think it's important to point out as well that the proposed tax of 51% is what the tax rate is set at. Is a tax on profit and not on turnover, obviously, but for obvious reasons. But just to put that into context, how high is 51% tax on profit in comparison to other states in the United States at the moment? And in the New York Post article, they compare, for example, to New Jersey, which is next door, with an effective tax rate of 13%. In Connecticut, it's also 13%, but then it goes down to as low as, for example, 6.75% in Iowa. But in Pennsylvania, on the other hand, is charged at 34%, and the only other state that also charges 51% is the state of New Hampshire. So that just puts a little bit into context there, and the expectations are, of course, that the operators will offset this tax by offering lower odds, for example, or not really offering that great bonuses to the players, and other means in order to maximize the profits as high as they can here in this very difficult market. So again, it's the players who will be suffering from this high tax rate. And question mark again is, since Katie mentioned that the black market is thriving, the question is again, the channelization rates and so on, how will those be affected? But I assume that we won't have the same issue of channelization rates as we have in Europe, for example, where the unlicensed operators are still able to operate legally outside of the jurisdiction, whereas a black market operator in the US, you probably don't want to screw with the American justice system and all that comes with it. But yeah, who knows?
Sorry, I just want to jump in a little bit. So I think what we have to remember, though, even though a lot of people play on the black market in the US, is that, especially when it comes to sports betting, it's not black market online. Most Americans haven't gambled online, whether it comes to sports betting or casino. So I think once they go live with online sports betting, it will become huge. It will take up a lot of the black market because it will be easy accessible. And everyone will talk about it. It will be, more, even though it might not be the best offers, there will still be offers compared to what it is right now when they go to their, bookie on the street. So, it's still going to be very, very good once they go live.
Fair enough. So, Katie, the regulator doesn't have the same concern of channelization rate, of course, that they would have in the European jurisdictions. That's what we are saying.
Yeah, because many people haven't played online. I think that's it. Like once I'm seeing, especially now in New Jersey, there's so many people that are big gamblers in New Jersey, but still hasn't really experienced the online because they don't know how to do it, so to say. And the same will happen with Sportsbook once it goes live in New York, and people will be willing to try it, but it's a learning curve. It will take a couple of years and then it will peak. So let's wait until 2025 and we'll see a lot of success in New York, I think.
Super interesting. Super interesting. All right, Nico.
Yeah, and just to back up what Katie has just said, because from a European perspective, we are quite used to, online sports betting and being able to actually, participate in online sports betting. But the US is a different pairs of shoes. As of now, Illinois, they changed the legislature to approve online registration. As of now, you're not able to actually register online for sports bet, casino, or whatever. The registration still has to happen on a face-to-face point of view. And as we already pointed out for quite a long time and each and every time, that the US market literally happens on a retail system. So if you want to place a sports bet or participate in a casino or whatever, you have to attend a retail establishment. And as of now, this changes. And as Katie pointed out, 2025 will be interesting to see as the overall market in the US when online verticals and online offers will be available to most participants in the US market. And as said, Illinois, which is considered as one of the 5 big states in the US, they are about to change and to allow online registration. And it will be super interesting to see how this will increase the overall GGR for our industry within the state of Illinois.
Really interesting, Nico. It will be interesting to follow up.
Sorry, I just want to throw out there that we just went live Hard Rock in Florida as well. We have a soft launch now. So, Florida is also on the rise, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with the Sportsbook there.
Interesting stuff as well, Katie. I know I'm mindful of time here. We have another 5 minutes to go here, Nico. Is there any last really interesting kind of breaking news story that you have for us?
So Katie just covered the topic of Hard Rock app going live in Florida, which is a great news as well. Just let me have a look what we already covered from the news. Yeah. So the
Can I
gaming
request
revenue
Sweden, please?
Yes.
going into Sweden, Pierre. This is specifically your talk.
Fair enough. Good shout out, Katie. Yeah, so essentially, as we mentioned here in the beginning of the session today, at the start of the pandemic, the Swedish regulator decided to introduce some temporary restrictions for online gambling, restricting the Swedish players from depositing just a small amount of money per week, and also restricting the gambling companies from offering any bonuses of value, let's say. These temporary restrictions were then extended at the beginning of 2020, and very much to the dismay of the operators, but not unsurprisingly. And from an operator point of view, the expectation has very much been that these temporary restrictions would kind of become the new norm in Sweden. Especially since other markets have also played with the ideas to introduce temporary or limiting the players to deposit X amount of money per month or per week. Now, seemingly out of the blue, the Swedish regulator decided now that these temporary restrictions will be lifted, and they will be lifted. I think don't quote me on this, but I think it's around 15th of November, so in about 1 or 2 weeks, let's say within that time frame. And so the temporary restrictions will be lifted at that time. And so that's great news, of course, for Sweden. In these type of positive regulatory news, they don't come by that often, and especially not from the Nordics. But nonetheless, this is what is happening. However, the Swedish minister who is responsible to oversee the gambling the gambling regulation, Ardalan Shekarabi, he also put up a warning finger to the iGaming industry and basically said that because of the pandemic, we've seen a change in consumer behavior that perhaps is permanent, and because of that, we might need to take a look at more long-term measures in order to keep the gambling at bay, let's say. And so he has basically tasked the Swedish regulator to come up with additional measures for the license operators. And so while we are seeing now these temporary restrictions being lifted, we can very much expect that there will be additional measures that will be introduced at some point or the other into the Swedish market. So that is in essence the news that came out here the other week. I don't know, Katie, if you have seen this as well, or any comments on this too?
No, I haven't seen or heard anything. That's why I was so surprised.
Yes. As was I as well. Like I said, interesting movements here from Ardalan Shekarabi, and we'll definitely keep an eye on this. And I know that there was a podcast coming out between Jesper Skärbrink, who was the former CEO of Mr. Green, and Gustav Hofstedt, who is the General Secretary of BOS, basically the organization that is representing the iGaming companies in Sweden. So it's so I haven't listened to it myself. It was released yesterday, but if you go to the iGaming Next either YouTube page or on Spotify or Apple Podcast, it's the latest podcast that has been released, and I'm really curious to listen into it just for this very reason and see what insights Gustav Hofstedt have into this latest movement by the Swedish regulator. So definitely check that out. I'm going to do that myself as well, and see if there's any other details that have come out from this. Cool, Nico. What do you say? We are at 11 sharp here. Shall we start rounding things off? What do you say, Nico?
Yeah, sounds perfect to me. Sounds perfect to me. As I have to hop onto a conference call in like 1 minute. So if I might be excused to leave now, I would be super happy.
Absolutely, you're free to go, Nico. However, we're not going to end it in this very second as a group, because in the beginning of this call, I believe that someone in this group made a bit of a promise. Let's see if we can make this materialize. Rory, your jokesters to children, do they have any final joke, any final thing
Yes.
to close this chat off today? Okay, so
Let me
ladies and gentlemen,
get him. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Let me get
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll as a little final outro sign off thing here today. Rory's very own child is going to tell us a funny joke, because sometimes in this industry we get a little bit too serious and we need to lighten up the mood a bit. Okay, Rory.
Hello.
Rory, give your name. What's your name?
My name's Finn, and my joke is, what's a tornado's favourite game?
What is a tornado's favourite game?
What?
Go on. What is a tornado's favourite game?
What's a tornado's favourite game?
What is it?
Twister.
Hey, that is absolutely brilliant.
There you go. He's been thinking about that for the last hour. So.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant, Rory. And I think we should make this into a little tradition. So ask him to prepare the next joke for next week already now. So it's going to be hard to top, but anyway. Guys, Katie, Rory, Bogdan, Jan, Lisbeth, you're absolute rock stars. Thank you guys for coming on and sharing your insights with us today. It's super interesting, like always. We're forming some really nice friendships in here. And also to the audience for listening every single week. We hope that we have provided you with some interesting discussions and perhaps challenge your thoughts a little bit today. And with that, I'm going to head out into the Swedish cold, straight into the next door little restaurant, gonna have a little bit of a breakfast, and then check out what this city has to offer me. So I wish you all a great day. See you next week, and take care of each other, okay? Bye-bye.
Ciao, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great
Ciao, bye-bye.
joke. See ya.